Third and fourth human needs that all people have are three is the need for significance. The need for feeling like your life is significant, it's important, it's unique in some way, it's special, that your life has some kind of purpose. We all have the need to feel significant, unique, feel like our life has some kind of meaning. What's interesting is, how do you go about it? Well, you go about it by everybody else down. I'm going to the Lord. Now, there's two ways to ever tell us everybody else in the world. That's what some people do. Others work hard and build a better building. Right? Work like crazy. Maybe it'll take some lunch and go for it. A lot of people do because it's difficult to tear other people down. They can feel important. Go backwards. I'm going to do it. Or you get significant through violence. Why does violence last for so long? Control the situation, and I got some variety because this is a unique situation where anything could happen. Meets three of my needs. Violence has been around in humanity's experience forever because it is a way to meet needs. A derogatory way, but it works. And since it works, it doesn't require much effort, especially now with the tools of violence, where if you and I had a fight before and I had to punch it out with you, there was some consequence. But now with a high-powered rifle or something that can shoot off 100 shots in about a minute from a distance, I can be a coward and I can still feel significant. I can do whatever I want. There's no consequence to me. You can also do it in neutral ways. You can do it by, dressing really uniquely, right? Like you have a unique style that makes you feel unique and significant. You can do it by skill sets. Having skill that no one else has or is very unique. You can do it by buying more toys. You have nicer cars or homes or something like that. You could do it by getting more PhDs, more degrees, more results that you have that thing next to your name so you're significant. Every one of us finds a way, right? Because we have to feel significant. Everybody needs this. The only question is how. Some people do it by saying, I am a Christian or I am a Jew or I'm a whatever, and I'm more unique than you. And then religions fight about who really knows the name of God and kill each other in the name of God. It's an interesting process that sometimes happens. It's happened in most major religions of the world. Because people are basically fighting over who's more significant to the Creator. Interesting thought process human beings have. Now, the interesting thing is to be significant, you can do it in neutral ways, positive ways. You can do it by having more compassion and giving more than anybody else. If you give so much, sure enough, if you know you're willing to give more and you're more honest and more real, that makes you feel unique, makes you feel special, and that doesn't have any downside, only has upside. So you got to figure out, you're going to find a way to be unique. The question is, do you do cars and homes? Do you do it through achieving? Do you do it by the kind of love that you share? Do you do it by doing something with people that makes them feel like you're superior? What do you do? But you do something. You do many things to feel significant. But the problem is to feel significant, to feel unique, you have to be different than everyone, and that, of course, violates the fourth human need because God does have a sense of humor. And the fourth human need is the need for connection and love. So while you're busy trying to be unique, and I have so many clients, super achievers in the culture, actors, actresses, business people at the top, athletes, who their whole life they wanted to be unique, and then they got this total uniqueness, and now they have no connection because they feel like everybody's trying to get something from them now. They don't really feel the love and connection they wanted, which is the fourth need. Because to be unique and different, I have to be apart from you. This happens in people's intimate relationships all the time as well. Someone says, oh my God, I really want to be at one with this person. And then they start feeling at one with a person and they love it for a while and they go, oh, wait a second. I feel like totally loved and connected, but who am I? How am I unique in this world? I'm losing my identity. And then they freak out and pull back from the relationship. Because what they're trying to do is meet two needs simultaneously. You can get connection by being sick, and then everyone will come and pay attention to you. You can do it by creating problems. If you don't give a kid attention for doing something good, they'll do something bad to feel that you really care and you love them, to get your attention. And by the way, all adults are big kids. They do the same thing. Same thing as a child does. Sometimes a little bit more dramatic, sometimes a bit more painful, but the same things that kids do. Because basically most people are still 5 years old emotionally. So we respond the same way. Most of us are not directing. We have this great facade, but inside we're this little kid. So now here you are in this situation where you want connection. What else can you do? Well, you can have connection by just loving people. You can have connection by way of being in nature, or connection to God through prayer. Or you can have connection by looking at a piece of art and feeling this sense of inspiration. You can have it through meditation. You can have it by making love. You feel this total connection. You can have it through a pet. There's so many ways to get it. You're going to find a way. The only question is on a scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is none and 10 is totally fulfilled, where are you? Most people find ways that really don't fulfill them totally to bring them up to a 4 or 5. So they're in no man's land. They're not really happy, but they're not unhappy enough to do anything to change it or make it better. And then if you meet these first four, if you meet the need for certainty and uncertainty, called variety, and significance, and connection, you'll find a way to meet those. Those are called the fundamental needs. But you will not be rich, happy, fulfilled, really fulfilled, unless you meet the last two, and very few people meet the last two. These are the two that are the real secret. And that is, number 5 is you must grow. You must grow. And number 6 is you must contribute beyond yourself in a meaningful way. See, you can get certainty by controlling everybody. You can get variety by doing drugs. You can get significance by tearing other people down. You have connection by having a problem all the time that people have to fix. And so they pay attention and you feel loved by that. None of those make you a better person. The only way you're going to be fulfilled is if you pick a different set of vehicles. And those vehicles, or those ways of meeting your needs, must cause you to grow. Because no matter how much you earn, how many people think you're great, or what's wonderful in your life, if you don't feel like you're growing, you'll feel like you're dying inside. And anybody you've ever seen who has committed suicide, you thought, how could they do that? I mean, they had the world by the tail because they didn't feel like they're growing. And or, even if they were contributing, they didn't feel like their life had any meaning, that they were contributing beyond themselves. I bring this to your attention because I've seen so many people develop such great skills and still be unhappy. So if these are the 6 needs, you got to decide how you're going to play this game. And there's certain beliefs you have that make you do things a certain way, and they may not be serving you, but you keep doing it because it meets some of your needs. It's like, for example, anything a human being does, remember I said they have a reason. So if you smoke cigarettes, even though you know it's terrible, you do it because it meets some of your needs. Maybe initially you did it to be significant or to feel connected to some friends. Or maybe you're so stressed, you're certain when you smoke, you can relax. So now we stop you from smoking, well, you're gonna go for something else because you gotta still feel that comfort, or you gotta still feel significant. So unless we understand what our brain is doing, most of us in life have no idea how to win the game of life. We don't know what the target of the game is. We don't know the goal. And so it's pretty hard to win a game when you don't know what the goal is. I'm here to tell you, having been with a couple million people from 65 countries and having heard every story you can imagine. I've dealt with people with 152 personalities who started splitting in the middle of a seminar while Diane Sawyer was actually covering a businessman sitting next to this woman, and she split in 152 personalities, been in therapy for 30 years, and integrated her in 40 minutes on the spot. And Diane, I'm saying, it's a miracle, and saying, but it can't last. So they waited a year to do the story and followed her for a year, and she never broke down again. I've dealt with that, to people with 152 personalities, to people with like no personality who have a bigger problem, right? Okay, a much bigger problem, right? I've dealt with, the kid in the South Bronx addicted to crack cocaine, and I've dealt with the top CEOs in Hollywood addicted to cocaine, I mean, I've seen it all, and there's nothing I haven't seen. I've seen people physically abused, emotionally abused. I've seen everything you can imagine to see. You don't have to be bright to see there are patterns. And all these patterns are just trying to meet these same 6 needs. And most people don't know what they're after, so it's kind of hard to get your outcome when you don't know what it is. So what I want to talk to you about for a few minutes here is those last 2 called growth and contribution. follow this? Say I. So once you're in your comfort zone, you're not driven anymore. Here's the problem. When you get in your comfort zone and you're not driven, you no longer grow. When you're not growing, you start to die inside. When you're no longer growing and dying inside, you stop contributing in a meaningful way. And as you do both of those, your whole world falls apart emotionally. See, I've seen this happen. I've got about 6 or 7 friends, probably 7 to be accurate, who are considered by most people in the world to be like the best on earth at what they do and have been for a quarter of a century. Like one guy's in the movie business and been the head of several studios, made an unbelievable number of pictures, Academy Awards. Another guy is an NBA coach, the most winningest coach of all time in NBA history. I mean, each of these guys are my friends, and they're in their mid-50s. And what all of them do when we get together and talk is we talk about life and where we're going, what we're doing. And I've watched many of them, the business ones anyway, cash out at one point in their career, where they sold their companies and made $500 million. One guy, $2.5 billion. And he thought that was going to make him happy. And I remember for the first 3 or 4 months, he was really happy. He partied, it was fun, it was great. But then all of a sudden he got more and more crazy. And then all of a sudden he started overeating and drinking. And all those things are is a symptom for the fact that you're not fulfilled. So now you're going for the cheap quickie to try and make yourself feel good because you really aren't growing, you're not contributing. And every one of them has gone back into some venture that made them have to grow, because when they had their business, they had to take on the challenges, they had to take on the effort, they had to grow, and they felt like they were contributing something meaningful. And that's when they're happiest. So having said that, if we all can get comfortable at a certain spot, then what's the secret to make sure we're always growing and contributing? And the answer is become a team player, which means this. People will do more for others they care about than they'll ever do for themselves. And that's a critical distinction to have about human beings. People will do much more for others they care about than they'll ever do for themselves. Now, for some people, that's God. For some people, that's their kids. For some people, that's their friends. We'll all do more for something people we really care about than anyone else, than ourselves. And so if you really want to be happy, you got to grow and got to contribute. How many buy that? Say I. So if you buy that, you got to have a reason to constantly grow, because you're going to get comfortable pretty easily. The only way to do that is have these people you care so much for that you feel compelled to constantly contribute more and to grow in order to be able to do that. Unfortunately, in my life, I figured this out at a very early age, and so it drove me to this point. It's why I'm here now. And I'm here now because I get to have this sense of I have to grow to do this, I have to contribute, and I get the joy and the fulfillment of that process. I don't have to do any of this anymore, fortunately. I can sit and do nothing for the rest of my life economically, but I couldn't sit and do nothing and be happy. So that's where we got to vest ourselves. But I have found what that is for me, which is certain people I care about, an environment of people I care about, people like yourself who really want to make their life more, no matter how great it is. But you got to find what that is, because that's what will drive you. So I want to give you a couple of assignments that if you use them will get you more connected to your team. And they're very fundamental and they're very basic. But I think if you'll do them, you'll find them to be quite useful. And the first one is really simple. If you're going to be a team player and you're going to feel that sense of connection, then what you got to be able to do is you got to be able to connect when it's not easy to connect. What I mean by that is, if you're in a position where someone, how many of you have somebody in your life from your past where maybe you were good friends at one point, or lovers, or business associates, but you're really close with this person, and then one day something happened. And when that happened, it changed your life forever in your relationship, and maybe you've never spoken to them again since that day. How many have somebody like this somewhere in the back of your life? Raise your hand, let me see your hands. Keep your hand up, and I want you to see what percentage of the room it is. It's about 90% of the room, okay? So what I want you to do is this. I want you to develop team building muscles. Because when you have that sense of connection, you can do anything. But anybody can be loving and friendly to someone who's totally loving and friendly to you. If you're really going to get that sense of connection, that sense of real joy, the real passion, you got to be able to connect with somebody who has hurt you or been unfair to you. Now, I'm not suggesting you go start another relationship with this person. I'm not stupid. I know many of these people you don't want to start a relationship with. But I do want you to learn how to communicate with absolute caring and love and make yourself do that even though you've been hurt. Because that's how you build an ultimate muscle. How many follow this? Say I. What I'm going to ask you to do is you are going to tomorrow or tonight after the seminar, you're going to take this person, maybe you're not talking to them years, and you are going to call them. Now, answering machines don't count, okay? But you're going to communicate with them. And what I want you to do is 3 things. I want you to call them. I want you to acknowledge yourself, who you are. Don't pretend you're someone else. And answer the phone, and as you hear their voice, you'll say, hi. This is me. Remember me? I certainly remember you. Then the second step, you're going to acknowledge how the relationship ended. So you're going to say to this person, listen, I know the last time we talked was not a very pretty sight. I know that we yelled or we did this or we did that. I know that I knew I was right and you knew you were right, and it didn't end in a very attractive way. So acknowledge what happened so it's clear that you're not an idiot calling back. And then you go to the third step. You say, I'm just calling for one reason. It's been 6 months, it's been a year, it's been 10 years. I just want to call you to tell you that while that was incredibly painful and I was mad as heck, and I still don't necessarily agree or disagree with you, I do want you to know that before that happened, we had an amazing business relationship, friendship, love affair, whatever it was. And while I'm not trying to start a new one, I just want to tell you how grateful I am for that time I had with you prior to that event. Because it was a great, great time in my life. And you were an important part of my life and my team, and I want to thank you for that. And you don't have to say anything. I'm not calling to have you say anything or give me anything. I just wanted to thank you for that time. I hope you have a great life. Thanks. Bye. Click. What would this do to their brain? Better yet, what would it do to your brain to actually sincerely make this call and put aside those events and associate to the good things? Again, I'm not saying start a new relationship with them. I'm not saying that. I'm saying just call and acknowledge that there was great goodness and do it from your heart and reconnect to that feeling. How many think this would be a major stretch? Let me see your hands. Say aye. Good. So then if you can't do it, you what? You what? How many are going to do it? Raise your hand. Say aye. Here's the second call I want you to make. The second call is not painful. You'll want to make this call. Before you turn the page, let me ask you. So I want you to do it a unique way, because again, people do weird things. If they can't get that love or that connection in a good way, they do weird stuff to get your love and attention. So you don't want to wait till there's a challenge or there's a problem. And so I'm going to ask you to do it proactively. Now, for example, how many of you have kids? Let's see a show of hands. Wow. How many of you have teenage kids, as an example? Great. Another breed, aren't they? the whole world. So you got to decide. Are you going to blast through your life and forget what you really love? What you really, really live for? Because you're busy trying to achieve something. Or are you going to do both? Live fully and blast through everything you want to achieve too. The only way you do that is if you understand team. Inner team is the most important thing. So that's my challenge to you, is to make it the most important thing, including, by the way, the team inside of you. Because for years, I took first 7-8 years of my career, I didn't take one day off. I worked 7 days a week. That was it, because my whole identity was, I don't stop. But I've also learned through lots of pain that if you just give to everybody else but yourself, pretty soon you're empty and you got nothing to give back. So I learned gradually to really give myself things, give myself time, give myself little events. And I want you to do that. So I have one other assignment for you. That is, I want you for the next 4 weeks to promise me one thing. Besides coming up with your plan to take care of your team, that you come up with a plan that gives you 1 hour a week for the next 4 weeks where you do something for you that you normally will not do for yourself. I don't know what it is. Everybody's different. Maybe it's just a walk on the beach or a walk away because you never give yourself time by yourself. Maybe it's buying yourself something you would never do because you go, oh, that's stupid. I don't need that. Do it anyway. Because I'll tell you what will happen. When you give to yourself, you'll have something to give to others. You know, the Bible says, love thy neighbor like thyself, which presupposes that you would love yourself. That's not a very popular thing because most people who pretend to love themselves really don't. They don't really love themselves. They hate themselves. Giving to yourself is a gift that when you give to yourself and you're so much happier, so much more alive, you're able to give to others.